Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out for this live stream. What I like to do in these streams is just make myself available to you for around 40 minutes to an hour and just answer questions. So if you have any questions about writing, any questions about publishing, self-publishing, any questions about your story, if you are hitting a wall or you want someone to bounce ideas off of, if you're writing a book, I just get on here and make myself available to you asking me questions, and then I'll answer your questions. If there are no questions, I usually just work on whatever writing project I'm working on in the moment. I have a cup of tea and I'm just gonna hang out here for a little bit. So thank you to everybody who has come already and who has joined us. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to just ask them in the comments and I can answer them. I have a lot of admin stuff to get to. I had a lot of admin stuff to do the past couple of days because my book is coming out tomorrow. Very, very exciting. But it's been a lot of learning how to do product listings and set things up on TikTok Shop and all sorts of different things. So I am burnt out of admin stuff and very excited to get to writing. As soon as I hop off of this, I will get to go work on my book. So I'm very excited. Guess that makes me a little motivated to wrap this up quickly. No, I am very happy to answer questions if anybody has any. So looks like we have a couple people here already. Hi, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for popping into the live stream. Hello. If you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comments. All right, so our first question is, what's the earliest in the process you put your work in front of readers? Is there ever value in getting feedback on, for example, the first 3 to 6 chapters? I think that this is a really personal question, and there's not necessarily a right answer to this question. Some writers use alpha readers, and they will literally send a chapter of the book, like as they're working through it. They'll send it chapter by chapter to a team of people, and they like getting feedback on a chapter by chapter basis, even like when they're writing a first draft. I've never worked like that. It's never been very helpful for me to do that. I really like feeling like I'm protected when I'm writing my first draft. Like it's just me. I can give myself permission to go follow every single off the wall idea or just create scenes that I feel like are most exciting to me without fear of judgment or without fear of like accidentally writing the wrong thing or without fear of it not ultimately being relevant and like my world building not working. And like I don't do world building in my first draft. I world build a couple of drafts after. Like I write the story emotionally that I want to write, and then I work backwards from there and I figure out like how I can make the world work around my plot. So I never share first drafts with anybody. I think the earliest in my personal process that I would share something with readers is like I like to do a first draft and then do all of my revisions to that first draft. If I have a list of personal things, I always have a list. Like when I'm writing first draft, I'll have a list of things I already know I want to do to the book. And then only after that point, like when I feel like I've almost taken it as far as I could, not necessarily like as far as I could, but as far as I could in that first pass, do I open it up and I recruit beta readers. I don't want to get feedback too early when like I don't want my beta readers to ever be telling me things where I would read their comments and be like, yeah, I already knew I was going to do that. Like what's the point of having them? That's just wasting everybody's time. So yeah, I think you have to kind of see what ends up working for you. Some people like alpha readers and they like the motivation of having people to send chapters to, but yeah, I definitely never before like a polished first, like really never before a second draft for me personally. Oh, our next question, is there any way we can send you things like a PO box or something? I published a short horror story and I'd like to send you a copy. I'd like to know your opinion on it. Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you for thinking of me. I do have a PO box. My PO box, I don't know, or I can just tell you, my P.O. box is in the footer of all of my mailing list emails. It's P.O. Box 641 in Big Timber, Montana, and that's 59011. So that's my P.O. box if you ever want to send me anything. So that's very kind of you to think of me. I can't guarantee that I will be able to read it immediately because I have so many things going on this spring in both my personal life and also I'm just releasing this book, but I'm very, very honored to have been thought of. Thank you. Any advice for short stories? No, not personally. I don't write short stories. I have never enjoyed writing short stories. I personally I hate writing them. I've always hated writing them. I really, really don't like them. But I was forced to write them in college, and I did write a bunch of short stories in college. I just didn't really enjoy them. I become really obsessed with my story and like writing projects, and I just like being able to really sink my teeth into a longer project, and I've always been that way. So I don't really have any advice for you for writing short stories because I mean, I know there's a lot that they can teach you from a writing perspective, and it's important to like understand kind of how to write them, but yeah, I don't really have a lot of advice for you. I'm trying to think of like things that helped me when I was like, all short stories still have to have a beginning, middle, and end. They all still have to follow a normal story structure. They all still have to have a conflict, but your conflict, I think the difference between a short story and a longer story is just the scale of your conflict is a lot smaller. So you can write a short story about like a very, very small conflict, like one discussion or like one fight. And then, I mean, you can write novels about that too, but just like for the sake of argument, you can write much smaller scale conflicts in a short story. They're kind of like a moment compared to larger conflicts that you would need in a book. So yes, I don't really have anything better for you. I'm sorry. Let's see. Question, I know that TikTok seems to be the best way to gain a following, but I've never used the platform. What tips do you have for starting a TikTok for a new self-published author? Oh man, this is a really good question. TikTok is really hard. I find it really hard, and I found it really hard. I hated putting myself out there as much as you kind of have to on TikTok. I'd say first of all, you have to learn how to be like really authentic and learn how to like post a lot. So like on TikTok, quantity I've found is better than quality. Like when I first started my TikTok, I would spend a really long time trying to create like the perfect TikTok video and like the perfect hook and make sure that the editing was great and the background was great and the lighting was great. But then like I had a video, like, I found all of my beta readers for Love Trials, or not all of them, but a lot of my beta readers from Love Trials of a TikTok video I filmed at night when I was like sitting on the couch, and it was just like filmed from down here, and it was like just kind of my forehead, and it was just saying like looking for beta readers on it, and I got like 75,000 views on that video, and like people were commenting on it. So it's like the quantity is a lot better than the quality, and TikTok doesn't really reward quality. I post a TikTok like 3 to 5 times a day, and around like February of last year is when I decided to really hit the ground running with TikTok. I think that not every single book does very well on TikTok. And this is something that I don't like hear talked about a ton. Like TikTok and the algorithm rewards certain things. Like there are certain things that are more shocking and certain things that are more tropey. My book, They Stay, I tried to market that on TikTok for a long time, and I never found a lot of success just because it's not as like tropey as the Love Trials is. And I couldn't use hashtags like, like enemies to lovers or dark romance or like hate to love or all these like tropes that already have these big, like the hashtags have a lot of following. And so that made it a lot harder. Like my book was a lot more niche. TikTok also rewards hooks that have a lot of emotion in them. So like if I just wrote like any TikTok that I make about They Stay where I was like, a boy goes missing and his sister has to find him, but a ghost knows where he is. Like that wasn't as punchy and like as emotionally like stirring to people as my pitch for the Love Trials, which is like a serial killer takes couples and makes them play games designed to break their love, only he accidentally takes a pair of enemies instead, and like only one of them can get out alive. Like that's like immediate stakes, and like you already kind of can tell what that book's going to feel like. Whereas my pitches for They Stay always felt a little bit more like plot summary. I think that I think that the biggest thing that I found really helpful with TikTok is just that you have to remember that you're selling emotion and not plot. Like people buy books based off of how your TikToks make them feel or how your book synopsis makes them feel. And so trying to figure out like test as many different pitches for your book as you can, create a million of them, and like just post a ton and pay attention to which ones do better than others. Hop on trending sounds and like all the kind of normal like social media stuff, but cast a really wide net with your pitches. Try to focus on like which one makes you feel something, and then chances are that's going to be more successful on TikTok. So that would probably be my tips there. Let's see. Hey, what are the steps to having your book published from your first draft to having a published book? My personal writing process, and every writer is different and has a different writing process. My personal steps are that I always like to write a first draft, and or I no, my personal steps is when I have a nugget of an idea, the very first thing that I do is I take a giant stack of sticky notes and I will write down every single possible scene I can think of happening in that story on a sticky note, and I'll stick them in a rough general order. So I'll have kind of like my 5 plot points that I like I have my point of entry and my inciting incident, my climax, my midpoint, my climax, and my resolution. Sorry, my brain's like a little fried. I've been like really working on launch stuff. My point of entry, my inciting incident, my midpoint, my climax, and my resolution. And then that will kind of be my general story arc. And then I'll start shuffling my sticky notes in the rough order that they would have to be for that story arc to happen. And then I start trying to fill in the blanks. I listen to a lot of music. I like to brainstorm based off of music. So any scenes that like make me excited, or like any scenes that I think would be really cool, I'll stick them on sticky notes, or like I'll have that outline kind of on a table or on a counter or on the wall or something for a while. And every time I think of a new idea, either I'll write it on an index card on my desk or a sticky note, and then I'll just like kind of add it to my giant outline. And then once I have a kind of a rough idea of like just the general scenes that I want to have happen, then I will start putting it into a written outline on the computer. Either that's like a plot grid, where I like to some books, like I didn't use a plot grid for the Love Trials, but for the Love Trials sequel, I ended up using a plot grid, but just to brainstorm. So just like having a general column for like all the different scenes I could possibly think of, and then just like using it to shuffle around until I had like a general vision for all the things that could happen in a rough order. And then once I had that, I put it into a more concrete, like procedural outline and step-by-step linear outline. And then I will just write my first draft. And then my first drafts are pretty exploratory. I don't do a lot of, I don't really do a lot of editing or anything. And oftentimes I'll have like major plot points with big gaps in between, and I have to figure out how to fill those in. So I will bang out a first draft. Usually it happens pretty quick. Right now it's not happening incredibly fast because of preparing for Love Trials launch, but that's the stage of writing that I'm at right now with Love Trials Book 2. And then after I have that, I usually will keep like a list of edits or things that I want to, like edits I want to make to the book as I'm going. And I will populate that. Like I'll have a little section at the top of every single chapter where I write like, if I'm writing chapter 17 and I realize, oh, in chapter 6, I say something that's going to contradict something I say in chapter 17, but I like the idea I have in chapter 17 better, I'll go back to chapter 6 and write a little note to myself saying like, change this thing. Or if I get better ideas for things, I'll go back and make notes. And so in my second draft, the first thing I do is I incorporate all those notes, and I do all of the big rewrites that I have set for myself. And then that usually is a substantial amount of work. And I have a pretty hefty second draft. And once I have a second draft and I've edited it and I feel like I've taken it like as far as I can, where I'm starting to lose objectivity, like I think it's good, but I don't really know. I don't really have perspective. And like this is, I wouldn't really know what to do next from here. That's when I send it to beta readers. I tried to send it to as many beta readers as I possibly can. And then I get feedback from my beta readers and I do a complete overhaul. So it really, it depends what the book needs. For the Love Trials, I did a complete overhaul. I rewrote the entire thing basically from scratch, and the story roughly remained the same, but like my huge rewrite to my main character's entire personality. And so I had to do a big rewrite to everything because it's told from first person present tense. And then once I do that, I will work with I have another trusted beta reader that I was working with for the Love Trials, and she read it another like 2 times after the main beta reading team, and so I'll send it to somebody like that, so like another trusted voice, and workshop the details, and then I start to really get into the details of it. So once the story itself is kind of holding together, then we really dig into every single little, like I agonize over every single word that goes into my books. Like I spent a good 2 hours just going through the book, because the one main serial killer villain, in his point of view, like he has 2 point of view chapters, and then there are 3 instances or like a couple times in the book where he mentions lies and lying and liars. Like he doesn't like it when people like profess that to be in love, and then he thinks that love is a lie, so he calls them lies and like the people liars. And I had to go through and figure out every single time he talked about lies, what wording he would use about the liars, like whether he called them pretty lies or repulsive lies and why, and like digging into the psychology and like what changed between each thing and what circumstance makes him call them pretty versus repulsive, like going down to the very, very nitty gritty little tiny details so that every single little detail is thought about, because I find that like, the devil is in the details and the quality is in the details. And I really feel strongly that I want to dig into every single little tiny detail of the books that I put out there. And then once I do that, I will send that to a copy editor or a line editor, and I'll work on the actual like line by line prose. And then I will do a final proofread. And like in the case of the love trials, my beta reader did a final proofread. Both of us did a final proofread. She did hers first, and then I did mine. And then I checked for typos and everything. I ran everything through both Grammarly and ProWriting Aid. I like to do that as like a final typo check. And I also have Word read the whole thing like back to me, which is really annoying because like the weird robot voice got really old after like 179,000 words of listening to it. But I felt like I was being held hostage by that robot voice. But yeah, I go through the whole thing in detail and then just make sure that there are no typos. And like, obviously some still slip through. And I have a very silly one in the love trials. It's now corrected in the published version. But after I sent my pre-order copies to the printer, I had an ARC reader who took a picture of something. And I like have a scene where the character is crying and she like covers her mouth with her hand because she's crying. But in the book, I guess I was just deliriously tired when I was proofreading. I wrote like she covers her hand with her mouth. And so all I could like, I sent her back a gif of like the Leonardo DiCaprio like biting his fist gif, so, or meme or whatever it is. So yeah, proofreading is not perfect, but I do my absolute best. And I was really happy there were not that many instances like that in the book. And then I publish it. So it's, and when I send it, then I send it out to ARC readers, and then my ARC readers oftentimes will catch little typos and things, and then I'll fix them. And then once I have a final file, then I publish it. So it's definitely a huge process. It took me a full year to write and get to this stage with the love trials. So it's very, very involved, but it's my favorite thing to do. And everybody's process is a little different. All right, let's see. Oh, we got lots of questions now. Question. Any advice for breaking a first draft into a story structure? I wrote 77,000 words, and breaking it down into a structure, it feels impossible now. This is what I get for pantsing. So I am like a crazy plotter. Like this has never ever been something that I have done. So I don't know how helpful my tips are going to be. I think that starting with like, I always like to think of starting with like the really big picture and then boiling it down into the details. So if you start with like the most basic story structure that you can, so like break it into like a beginning, middle, and end, and then take it one step further, and then break it into like your inciting incident, your midpoint, and your climax, and then take it one step further and figure out like your point of entry, and then your inciting incident, and then like one or two reversals in there, and then your midpoint and climax. Like just keep layering things on slowly and then see where you get. Because I think that if you try to like just pull up the hero's journey and retroactively fit it into there, it's not necessarily going to match. But I think that you probably would be able to fit it into a beginning, middle, and end, and then try like every stage that you try to break it down more, then you can see like which plot points might not add up, where you might want to add things in and things like that. So that is, it's pretty, it's amazing. I'm very envious that you were able to pants. Like I've never been able to pants anything. I need to have a very clear roadmap of where I'm going in order to be able to write anything. So yeah, that would be, I'm sorry if that's not very helpful, but that would be my best advice. Let's see. We got so many good questions. Have any or I'm gonna have a sip of tea while I read this. I don't want to lose my voice like I did last week. So the next question is, have any self-published authors who follow you ever asked you to read their novels? Yes, they have. And I have read some of them, but I don't beta read and I don't coach. And I sometimes, depending on my availability, maybe will like write a like blurb a book or like send a review quote or something like that. But I'm a pretty slow reader. I really I never read anything like physical. I only listen to audiobooks. And so it is usually a very like slow timeline for me to read. And then I only really blurb books like if I, really, really love them. And so it's not something that I usually try to open myself up to, but some people have asked me and I have done that before. And I really am very, very honored when people do ask me. Let's see. How do you keep track of side characters across chapters, especially if there are several? So I use this outlining method called a plot grid, and what I like to do is if I'm tracking like different character, sidebar. This has become something that has become really like instinctual for me now. Like I've been writing for a very long time, and I don't have to do this anymore because I can just generally like characters are my favorite part about writing. I still haven't been able to make videos on this channel talking about like how I make characters and how I build characters and develop characters because it's just been the one thing. Like my prose I've always struggled with. Like I really had to work on getting my writing better, but characters are just something like my characters just jump to me as fully fleshed people and I can really feel them. So I've gotten to the point now where I can kind of roughly know, like, all right, in this book, this character is dealing with this one thing and like is kind of struggling with this thing. And in this book, or like this other character is doing this, and then I can just feel it out as I go. And I don't need to plot it out. But what I used to do is when I would make my plot grids, a plot grid is like a type of outline that exists on a grid. So it has different, like all these different columns and like all these different rows, and every column corresponds to a different plot or subplot, and every row corresponds to a chapter. So what I would do is I would have a separate column for every single one of my side characters. I'd figure out what they were going through and like what their general storyline of that book was, and then figure out how they develop in every single scene they were in. So if a lot of my side characters wouldn't be in every scene, but it was a way that I could track them to make sure like, okay, this character is in this scene. How are they feeling in this scene? What are they doing in this scene? And like just develop it over the course of the book. So that was a method that I found really useful for that. Oh, yeah, I am definitely ready for more questions today. I brought my tea so I wouldn't lose my voice. So yeah, hit me with them if you have questions. All right, let's see. Oh, geez. No, it's not me. I've been dealing with all these stupid YouTube impersonators that have been emailing members of the community. It's creepy as heck. They like go into the comment section, they read the comments that you have posted on the video, and then they will email you about the comment. And it's really weird. I don't know how they have your email. I would never email any member of our community and like at all for any reason. It's never ever me when they do that. So they've been creating new emails. They used to be like write with Claire Fraise at Gmail. It's all these like little bots that just go in and try to sell people stuff. So if anybody ever gets an email from somebody like offering something, or really from me, like if you get an email from me, you shouldn't be getting an email from me. Like, I obviously I love this community, but like I'm not going and just cold emailing people for no reason. That's really weird. So no, it's absolutely not me. I'm so sorry that that's happening. I have been trying to shut it down, but I don't know how. They just like, it's like a hydra that keeps growing new heads. And yeah, I'm really, really sorry that that's happening. It makes me really, really mad that someone is targeting our community. Let's see. How would someone become a beta reader? Thank you for answering my last question. How would someone become a beta reader for me or just in general? Because if you want to become a beta reader in general, there like are tons of people on TikTok all the time who will post about beta reading opportunities. There are lots of Facebook groups like for beta readers and like that are meant to connect beta readers to authors, and lots of communities online. So yeah, I would probably, I mean, if you're on TikTok, a really great place to start is just to search like beta reading and like a type of book that you like and see what comes up, and then filter it by like newest posts. So the newer ones come up first. In Excel, would that work? I think I need to start plotting, but I've always been a pantser. Yeah, I actually do. I plot grid either in Excel or in Google Sheets. So I will kind of alternate between the two. I have been using Google Sheets more lately, but really for no reason. Like I'll bounce between the two because they both, for my purposes, work exactly the same. Because all I'm doing is putting text in boxes and like changing the boxes to be different colors. So I'd recommend going if you're interested in plot gridding. I've made tons of videos on the channel about plot grids and like how to create them and all that stuff. So I'd highly recommend going and checking those out. Did you go for traditional publishing or self-published, and what was your journey to get your book published like? I don't know what's better these days. This is definitely, I mean, I think that there's no better option. It really depends on who you are and what your goals are and all sorts of different things. I'm having another sip of tea before I answer this because I can already just like feel myself. I'm doing this again tomorrow. So we're gonna have a lot of opportunities to talk in the next 2 days, and I just don't want to be hoarse when I do my live stream tomorrow. Bear with me. All right, so I self-publish all of my books. I love it. I'm so glad that I do. I've never queried. I mean, I think I did in high school for like a book I wrote in high school, but I have like made a very, very intentional decision to self-publish, and I really, really love self-publishing. I like self-publishing because of the creative freedom that it gives me. I like being able to call the shots with like not only what goes in the book, but like the length of the book, my cover design, my branding. I like having the control over the pricing, how I sell the book, where I sell the book, getting to experiment with things, and really just being able to have direct communication with my readers and be able to give my readers exactly what they want. What I really liked is like I was able to send out this version of the Love Trials, and I published the Love Trials. It's a like 610-page book. It's very long, and I published it at 179,000 words. And I originally played around with the idea of querying it because I was like, I really, really love this idea. Like, maybe this would, get some attention if I queried it. But I also knew that like I would probably not get a lot of hits because of the length. Like it was a really long book, but that's the length that I wanted to tell the story it's the length that I needed to tell the story that I wanted to tell. The story would not have worked the same way without the length. So I chose to self-publish because I'd already self-published my 5-book series, and for all the reasons that I just mentioned. My journey to get my book published was I just talked about kind of like my general writing journey and like publishing journey a little bit when it came to the Love Trials, but I've been self-publishing books since 2021. I actually published my first book when I was in high school in 2015, but I don't really count that one. Like I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. So in 2021, I really started self-publishing, and for the past 5 years, I've just been like jumping in and like trying to learn as much as I could about self-publishing. And what is great about self-publishing, and also challenging, is that things are always changing and new opportunities are always coming up, and you really have to be like a lifelong learner who's like just trying to absorb everything, and you have to be pretty brave and like take risks and take chances and put yourself out there and like try cutting edge things and trying new things and like experimenting with like ways to reach readers directly. And because of how fast everything moves, like it can be a little bit of a challenge, but I love it. It's very energizing, and it's really like it's scary. Like it can feel really daunting, but it's also incredibly rewarding because it allows me, like when I sent Love Trials out to beta readers and I cut it down to 150,000 words because I was worried it would be too long. My beta readers said that actually like some of the story moments, they were like, I wish we had more of this and I wish we had more of this, and like I felt like we didn't get enough prose, like there wasn't enough meat to it, like I wanted more of it. And so I ended up adding more to it and like really beefing it out and making it like a more fully fleshed story and exactly the version that my team of beta readers wanted. And I had like a team of 200 beta readers that like went through that book, and so it was really, really cool to be able to create the book that like my readers wanted and that I wanted, and not have like any external factors telling me like, oh, you need to lower your page count for this reason or anything like that. I think I'm not the best person to speak about the traditional publishing industry because I have never been a part of it. Like I don't have an agent. I've never had a traditional publishing deal. I've only self-published and managed everything on my own. But from my understanding, it is, you have like authors in traditional publishing who will get traditional publishing deals, and their publishers will put a lot of money behind their titles and really try to push them out there. And then you'll have a lot of authors who will get traditional publishing deals, and their publishers will not put as much money behind marketing their title. And they don't get a lot of support, like publicity support from the publisher. And so it's still on them to do all of their own marketing. So it's still on them to like, go on TikTok and like go get people to be interested in their book, but they have far fewer tools at their disposal. So they can't control things like their pricing, they can't control things like where they sell their books, and everything is a lot more limited. So I just wanted to have all of the tools at my disposal. Like if I had a DJ board, I have all of these different levers that I can pull and experiment with to try to like reach readers, to try to create a product that readers are really going to love, to try to like just have complete control over the entire process, and to just be able to get rid of like it's now how I publish my books is just like an interaction between me and my readers. There's no middleman at all. So I think that that's really great, and I really really like that. There's no one option that is better. It really depends. Self-publishing is also like it can require a lot more upfront investment of money, but also of time. Like you really have to learn how to, like the market is so saturated, and it takes a long time to learn how to, first of all, like write a really great book, or write and like not necessarily great, like it's a great book can be different from a book that like really sells a lot and is a really like big commercial driver. And it takes a lot of time to learn like how to write a commercial book that's going to like be moving copies and connect to people. And it also takes a lot of time to learn all of the different things that you have to do. Like you have to learn how to format your book, you have to learn about cover design, you have to learn about all of the different places you can sell it, you have to figure out your pricing, you have to figure out your marketing, you have to actually put yourself out there on social media. Like there are all these different things that go into it, and you have to learn how to do all those things. And some of those things are pretty hard. So it's definitely a lot of work up front. And obviously, like if you get a traditional publishing deal and they're putting a ton of money behind you, and like that's the ideal scenario, then you don't have to worry about it and they can handle all of it. But that's not most people's reality, from what I understand. Let's see. Have you ever written a book and liked one of your supporting characters more than a main character? I'm going to do a tea break between each question. I got to think about this. The answer is yes. All the characters in the love trials are like my babies. I love them all so much for such different reasons. And I love Eden. I really love my main character of the love trials. I put so much of myself in my thought process and like how I think about things, and just the way that her brain works, and like how she's like really emotional, and like I put all of that into her, and so she feels very close to my heart. She feels very like she's just like me. But I love all the other characters in that book too. I will say that when I was writing They Stay, I loved Jonah way more than Shiloh. As soon as I started writing these, I mean, Jonah is my favorite character in They Stay. He's just took the show away from me. I loved writing his point of view. I like him. Yeah, I like him better. I still love Shiloh. Like she's still my girl. We went through a lot, and she's really precious to me. But yeah, I think as soon as Jonah really started like entering that series as a fully fleshed, like one of the main characters, he just totally took it away. But yes, that has happened to me. What was your process for creating the romance and the love trials? What was your biggest inspiration? Oh my gosh, I love this question so much. Thank you so much for asking me this. Nobody's ever asked me this before, and I could like talk about this like forever. So, I love the romance and the love trials. There's like, as soon as I created Nico and Eden and just their whole characters, I like nothing has ever just like swept me away that much. Like I still get butterflies when I like reread. Like I will go pick up a random page, and then I'll just get sucked in, and I'll just like get all giddy reading it. And like that never happens to me with something that I've written before. And it's a really weird feeling, but I'm very happy with them. And I think that they're very character driven. In my very first draft, I knew I wanted to like kind of do the enemies to lovers Saw thing, but I really struggled, which you'll probably tell when you're reading the book, to figure, and I know that you've already read it, so you're gonna know what I'm talking about. When like they are not really traditional enemies, like they are, because enemies to lovers is kind of a tricky, like it's a weird trope, because there are no two people that are really truly enemies. Like unless you're reading like an assassin's book, like and they're like two assassins that are set to kill each other, there are no like, you can have people that hate each other, you can have people that don't get along, but like what is an enemy? And so Nico and Eden are like kind of without giving away any spoilers, they're like kind of situational enemies to lovers, like set up in a way in which that like they are on polar ends of like of goals that they have, because of very deeply entrenched character reasons. And so in my very first draft, I leaned a little bit too far into the hate to love thing. Like they just like really hated each other and they were just like really didn't get along. But then as I was revising the book and I was like trying to make them like feel more like people instead of like caricatures, I had to really dig into how they would be thinking about each other, how they'd be feeling about each other. And that made it like maybe a little bit less like a traditional like book talk enemies to lovers and more like a very like character driven slow burn with lots of tension and lots of yearning and stuff like that. So I think that all of the like my general process for figuring out the romance is that I am a huge believer that in order to get a really strong payoff, you need to have a really strong, like a long build up. If you want to get that like really exciting feeling where it was like, oh my gosh, they like brushed hands, you need to build up to it for a long time and you need to build tension. Like I love a slow burn that like keeps ramping up. Like I don't like a slow burn that's like this for a really long time. I like a slow burn that's like going like that and then like crescendos and like things happen really fast. But to me, it's just not satisfying unless you've had the build up. So with them, I like really tried to dig very deep into their characters and like figure out exactly what they would be thinking and feeling about each other and really make it very character driven and just stretch out the tension. And I was always looking for like very subtle ways to drag tension and like just make sure that like there's always some kind of tension between them. And then I also like listened to a lot of music and I'd have all of these scenes. Like I started with them with like a lot of the kind of big turning point scenes, like the glass scene and the scene with Billy and the scene where he has to train her and the scene with the personal security. And like all those were like scenes that I had pretty early on. And I had to just figure out like how to kind of drag the tension between all of them and then also do a lot of reversals. So every single time Eden like started to think like, oh, maybe Nico's actually like kind of nice, then he would do something to totally back off from it and like make her think like, oh, I hate him and he hates me. Like I mean, she never really hated him, but you know, it was always like a flipping the switch. Like I did a lot of reversals to try to keep things interesting. And the whole reason that like the whole book is from Eden's point of view is so that like there's nothing that gets revealed too early and like a lot of his actions remain a mystery because that's another thing that I think makes it exciting is because a lot of it like if you knew exactly what he was thinking and feeling from the beginning it wouldn't be as satisfying when everything like comes together and you get the payoff. I pulled a lot of just random inspirations. Nico is very, very heavily inspired by Aaron Hotchner from Criminal Minds. And also he's kind of like a Aaron Hotchner's like seriousness and presence meets like Zayden Ryerson's sarcasm, but like Nico delivers all of his lines in like this like deadpan way. he's very witty and sarcastic, but he's not like cocky. He's just like he's very quietly witty. Like he'll say really funny things, but they're always like very deadpan. Um and so I like, you know, would pull like little pieces of inspiration from characters that like I've really, really enjoyed reading about or watching on TV. I pulled inspiration from that scene, like when I was reading the second ACOTAR book, and I reached that chapter when Reese gave his like full confession. Toward the end of that, I was like, wow, that gave me the most incredible rush ever. I want to be able to figure out how to like deliver that kind of feeling in this book. And so that was like, that's another piece of inspiration that came. It was just like, I want to figure out how to capture that feeling. And that's part of the reason that I made the choice to like have that one chapter be a lot of dialogue because I wanted to create like a similar feeling that reading like the second ACOTAR book gave me. So pulling a bunch of just random inspirations, but my big thing was like slow burn and payoff over the course of the whole thing, building tension and then always having reversals and like playing a little bit with information. Because yeah, if I'd done a dual point of view, it would not have landed the same way. But I just love me a good slow burn. I'm such a slow burn girl. All right. Let's see. Oh, this is a good, interesting question. Do you worry that TikTok can steer you to write books that are too tropey instead of going with the book that speaks the most to your heart? This is definitely something that I've observed on TikTok is that because of the over reliance of trope marketing, you get a lot of people that write these same tropes over and over. And I personally like I think that this is definitely something that is a concern with like social media marketing in general. And I think a lot of like books in general are leaning towards becoming more tropey. As a consumer, personally, I eat those books up and I love them. And so this, like, including more tropes in my books hasn't deterred from my love for my books at all. Like, The Love Trials is my favorite book I've ever written. Like, I am obsessed with it and so proud of it, and like just ridiculously, unbelievably proud of it. And so I don't feel as though me like including tropes has detracted from my attachment to my story at all. Actually, on the contrary, like it has made probably like helped me connect even more to the book because I had so much fun writing it and I genuinely enjoy these tropes when I'm reading. And so it was fun to kind of think about like including some tropes that I enjoy while reading into a story that I'm writing, because then I would like write the scene and I was like getting chills and I was getting really, really into it. Not everybody loves these tropes probably the same way that I do. Not everybody has the same tastes in books as I do. And so it's absolutely not for everybody. Like you should only, I'm a huge believer that you should only write what you're extremely passionate about and what you really love to write. Like if you're not obsessed with it, why do it? Like writing is supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be an artistic expression, and nobody wants to read a story that like someone has created that they themselves are not really into. And I think that like the world needs more stories that are like that people have put a ton of effort into, that people have poured their entire hearts into. Because like there are so many books out there because it's, you know, become like people write, there are a lot of people that write books, but I absolutely love reading books where like you can feel the author's passion for it and you can just feel the love that has gone into every single word and detail in that book. And I think that nobody should write a tropey book if they are not just passionate about those tropes. Only include the ones that you are excited about. They do, like from a pragmatic standpoint, they do help with TikTok marketing, but TikTok's also not the only place that you can market your book. You can market your book on social media. Your audience also might not be on TikTok like mine is, because I personally, I'm on TikTok. Like I'm in really squarely in my audience. And that's where like I find a lot of my book recommendations. But you know, a lot of other audiences are on different platforms, and you have audiences on Facebook and on Instagram and like different types of paid marketing. And so I think that you really should only write what you're really, really passionate about. And if that is not tropey, then you should not include those tropes in your book. But for me personally, it has not changed the passion and love that I have for my books. Aw. Oh, thank you so much for pre-ordering the Love Trials, and thank you so much for what a kind comment. That makes me really happy. This comments like this just make me like fill me with this like warm, gooey feeling. I'm so grateful to have you as part of the community, and I'm so glad that I've been able to connect with you and talk about writing. Like writing is my absolute favorite thing in the entire world, and it's my favorite thing to talk about. And yeah, I'm so excited to share the Love Trials with you. As I've mentioned like 17,000 times on this live stream, I'm just so proud of it. All right, let's see. Wow, we have a lot of questions. Let's see. Oh, how do you handle printing as a self-published author? Do you use Amazon? Yes, I do use Amazon. I use a couple of other printers too. And this is something that sorry, I'm gonna take my tea break. I use Amazon and I use a couple other printers as well. I use primarily Amazon and Ingram Spark as my two main print-on-demand companies. And those are very easy. You just like upload your files into Amazon and upload your files into Ingram Spark, and then they will handle all the distribution themselves. And so people can just order from Barnes & Noble or from Amazon, and then they will print the book and send them to the reader individually. I have started selling direct on my website as of this year. Like that's like a new thing that I've been wanting to do for a while, but I just kind of took the plunge and decided I was going to start doing that. And so I've had to do like explore other printing options because Amazon doesn't allow you to order author copies until the book is already published. So you can order author copies once the book is out. But if you're running a pre-order and you want the book to go out to readers before your book is released, then you can't use Amazon to print. You can use Ingram Spark, but Ingram Spark, I'm going to probably have to make a video about the absolutely abhorrent quality of the Ingram Spark hardcovers that I received for my Love Trials pre-order. It was absolutely abysmal. And just, I have to see what's going to happen with possible refunds or replacement copies, because I like maybe 25% of the books that I ordered are usable, and the rest are like severely damaged, severely like misprinted, or like literally look they were kicked from Ingram Spark to my house. Um, and so that has been a big problem. But Ingram Spark, I ordered some paperbacks from there and they arrived okay. I think part of the reason is that Ingram Spark doesn't properly package their books, and they will just put 10 or 12 books loose in a cardboard box that's too big for them, and like put like two pieces of paper on either side, and then the books are just like clanging into each other and shaking around as they're being transported, and so then they all arrive damaged. So I did use Ingram Spark. I have used Ingram Spark many times before. I am unlikely to continue using Ingram Spark for any reason other than having that as a print on demand option for paperbacks only, because their hardcover quality is just so bad that I am not even bothering uploading a hardcover to Ingram Spark, because I don't trust the quality to be okay when it gets mailed out to a reader. I have recently started using Book Vault and have been incredibly impressed with the quality of the books printed on Book Vault. All of my like special editions that I've actually sold have been printed on Book Vault. I'm still going through my Ingram Spark ones that I've ordered, and I haven't sold any of those because like even the ones that are in decent condition are still kind of stupid looking and like have a lot of other weird issues. The Book Vault ones are gorgeous. The colors are really bright. The material is really high quality. The pages are really high quality. Everything printed beautifully. You can order them like whenever. You just upload the files and then they'll approve the files, and then you can sell them yourself. And so I'm right now stocking my own stores like on TikTok Shop and my website, because I'm selling direct on my website with Book Vault. So I have the hardcovers, and then I'm going to also be stocking with paperbacks. I did use Barnes & Noble Nook Press to do my special edition paperbacks of the Love Trials, and I do not recommend working with them. I ordered 250 books. 44 of them arrived with serious misprints or serious damage, and they are not going to refund me, and they might give me a refund, but I have yet to see whether, or sorry, they're not going to refund me, but they might give me replacement copies and mail me some replacement copies, but they have yet to make a final decision on that. So they've not been a pleasure to work with. I also ordered a proof copy that came out beautiful, but then my giant order, like a lot of the trimming and stuff like that didn't come out very good. And I mean, they came out good. Like I'm happy with them, but they just like weren't as crisp as I wanted them to be, and they weren't as crisp as the proof copy like made it seem like they would be. But that to me wasn't the end of the world. Like they still looked beautiful. They still looked perfect. Like I was still able to send them out. It was just all of the damage and all of the like serious wrinkles in the spines and the creased corners and the shipping damage and stuff like that. That was a real problem. So I right now will stand by Book Vault. That is Book Vault. So the second one with a V. Book Vault. They're in England, but they have US printers, and they have US printers for paperbacks, not for hardcovers, but their hardcovers, like I placed an order for 200 hardcovers, I think on April 1st, and they arrived to me in rural Montana on April 8th. So it was very, very fast, even shipping from England, and the shipping wasn't astronomically expensive, although I do know that they just raised their shipping rates because of increased shipping rates shipping rates are going up everywhere. So yeah, I really, really liked working with them. I did a lot of research into figuring out places that I could stock like special editions and do like print runs of those. And there are a lot of printers in China that do really beautiful special editions, like CC Printing, and I haven't worked with them yet. And then there was another printer that, like, another author that I know used and had a really great experience with, but they don't have a website. I've just been Instagram DMing the person to get a quote. But both of those, beautiful work, and the only issue with those printers is you need like a much longer runway of time, and you just need to like have about 2 to 3 months by the time like when the files are ready to when you get the books in, and I did not have that kind of turnaround time for the pre-order. It had to be really snappy. But I think that I'll probably do like a cool special edition print run of the Love Trials at some point, and do like I don't know, like a cool dark mode hardcover with like black pages and white text or something like that would like I could have a longer runway for, and then I can order special from one of the overseas printers. But those are all the ones that I've worked with so far. But yeah, not a big fan of Ingram Spark right now. Let's see. Got so many good questions. Oh, thank you so much for the kind comments and the well wishes. I really appreciate you stopping in. All right, let's see. How much do you write on a given day? How long does it take on average? Would love to hear about your workday. Yeah, so it really varies. Right now, like I haven't written at all today, but that's and like I haven't written in a couple of days, but that's because my days have been absolutely chock-a-block full with like figuring out pricing models and figuring out product pages and setting up TikTok shops and setting up like, packing orders was basically all of last week. I was just packing pre-orders and like getting all of that sent out and put together because I'm just like setting up my own direct store. And so right now that's like really, really time consuming and preparing for launch. So like uploading all of my files and designing my files and resizing files and like just all of that stuff has been what my workday has been what my workday has consisted of. When I'm drafting, I will, and like when I'm not doing a lot of this stuff, I will work pretty long days. And it kind of depends where I am at the process. Like a lot of times if I'm sitting in front of the computer for like 12 hours looking, like I can do that, but if I'm drafting, it doesn't like sometimes I can get more done if I'm like sitting in front of the computer for 4 hours drafting and then like going out for walks and going for drives and like going and like working with my horse and like doing things that are separate from drafting actually help me a lot more because I'm in the creative development process and it gives my brain a rest and an ability to like brainstorm and think about stuff. Like I come up with a lot of my best ideas when I'm fishing and I love going fishing and like just being able to quiet my brain and like think about what I'm working on and then coming home and like just writing as much as I can. So it really depends what part of the process. But like when I'm proofreading, it's not going to help me if I'm like going to go fishing. Like I should be sitting in front of a computer for 12 hours proofreading. But like when I'm drafting, it's a little different. So I really just manage my time based off of the different stage of the process that I'm in. I will say I've been homeschooled since I was in the 4th grade. I've grown up managing my own schedule and I have like my entire life I've managed my own schedule. And so I've become pretty good at like being able to manage my time and be my own boss and set like structured rules for myself. Also, I'm a little bit obsessive. Like I'm obsessed with writing and I have a little bit of trouble transitioning between writing and doing other things. And because I love writing so much, I get absolute tunnel vision. My problem has never been like whether or not I'm working enough. It's like actually forcing myself to take breaks because it's like all I do is I like lock in and I get laser focused. So yeah, I work weekends. I don't keep like a normal schedule. I'm just like working all the time unless like, then in the middle of the week I can take some time off and go and do something and then I'll come back to it. Like I don't have a structured work day, which is very nice. And because I'm really, really passionate about what I do, it is good to, be able to have that flexibility, but it hasn't like required me to put a real structure around what I'm doing. So yeah, I kind of work all the time and how much I write really varies depending on where I'm at in my process. Let's see. Oh, how do you market a book when I write a book that isn't a single genre? I have multiple genres in my books. Yeah, my the love trials, I have absolutely no idea what genre I can call it. So I just kind of call it everything. I think like my current subtitle for the love trials is like an enemies to lovers dark romance horror thriller with suspense, like serial killer thriller with suspense. It's like it's something with like horror thriller, dark romance, enemies to lovers, suspense, like paranormal thing. Like I just jammed them all together. So yeah, I think just write it and then find your readers somehow. Like you don't need to be in a traditional genre in order to be able to find readers. Like I don't know exactly what genre the love trials is. It has dark romance, it has elements of horror, it has thriller elements, and it has paranormal elements, but it's not squarely one of those things. And so I think just write the story, like the best story that you can, and then find a way to reach your readers, and they're really not going to necessarily care what genre that you're in. Like I've always been a cross-genre person. I have really not paid very much attention to genre. Just write the story that you want to tell and then figure out how to pitch it. Don't say like, "Oh, it's a horror book," because actually, this is pretty important. Don't, like, if you go on social media or if you go on TikTok or something and you say, like, oh, it's a horror book, that's not going to sell your book. People aren't going to read it just because it's a horror book. That could mean anything. But if you are very specific and figure out what pitch creates emotion and like actually sells your book, that is what's going to sell your book. So it doesn't matter what category, like horror, thriller, or whatever that you fit into. You want to, like, it depends like what taglines you have and like what's actually selling your book and like what copy is selling it. So I would not worry too much about genre. All right, let's see. How do you come up with, I'm going to do one more question because I can already feel my voice is kind of starting to go a little bit. But thank you to everybody who's come out and asked me questions. I've really, really enjoyed this stream. And I will be back here again tomorrow as well for my Love Trials release day party, because that's coming out tomorrow and I'm very, very excited. So one more question and I'm going to tap out for the day. How do you come up with clever lines for your witty characters? I'm not naturally witty, and that makes it incredibly hard to write this type of dialogue. I feel that. I totally understand that. I always feel this with my like genius characters. I'm like, I'm not particular, like, I'm not nearly as smart as my characters are, and so they always make me feel really, really dumb. And I'm like, I have characters that are like geniuses that need to be able to always have the like clever things to say and like clever solutions to problems, and I'm like, really beats me. Like, I wish I could have that kind of clever solution to a problem, because like it just definitely doesn't come naturally to me. I don't know. I think that I just I don't really know if there's a way to artificially put it in, like, all of the lines that I come up with are just like it kind of comes naturally to me. I am a very shy person and I'm never one to like have a witty line in a conversation, but when you give me a year to think about the best comeback for something, I can kind of maybe put some things in there that are funny. Like, that's kind of how I like to think about it. It's like, when you are in a conversation and then you think of a great thing that you would have wanted to say in that moment after the fact, now you have a whole year to think about exactly what you would want to say. Like, and what's the funniest, wittiest thing that you could say if you wanted that. So yeah, there's really no shortcut. I think you just have to practice and kind of work at it, and like it might feel a little awkward and stilting at the beginning, but eventually maybe they'll start coming a little more naturally. At least that's what happened to me. Like, in They Stay is not a particularly funny book, even when I was trying to be funny, but I'm very pleased whenever anybody says that the Love Trials is really funny, because it makes me, like, it's such a big boost to my little ego, because I have never particularly found myself very funny, and so it makes me feel very good about myself when people say the Love Trials is funny, and that's something that I've really been working towards. Like, it was a very conscious effort to try to make Eden funny, and like she used humor as a coping mechanism for things. And I think that that's also, oh, one actionable thing is digging into your character's voice and figuring out what would be witty to them and like what they would actually say. Because like my main character in the Love Trials uses humor as a coping mechanism, and she uses humor to mask her insecurities, and she uses humor to mask like a lot of her trauma and to make fun of herself. And I think having that filter helped me come up with some of her lines, because it just put me very squarely into her head, and it was just easier like for that to kind of flow out. Like, I wasn't telling myself like to write a witty line. I was just trying to think of like how this character would speak about herself, and because she felt so real to me, like those just kind of all gelled together, and all of her dialogue kind of came very naturally. So figuring out your characters would probably be my tip. But all right. Thank you all so much again for coming to this stream. I am very, very grateful for you taking the time to spend some time with me this evening. I hope you have a fantastic week. I will be back probably with another regularly scheduled video next Monday, because I've done 2 of these streams now in a row, because I was just like unable to think about filming because I was so busy packing orders and stuff. So probably I'll be able to film this week and I'll get a normal video for you next week. If not, I'll be here again next week. But yeah, thanks everybody. I hope you have a great week, and I might see some of you again tomorrow if you want to come to my Love Trials release day live stream, which I would be very, very grateful for. So bye everyone.